Hello and welcome to That's Absurd. Please elaborate. It doesn't actually have a comma in the name, but I feel like, we almost put one in there and then we didn't end up doing it.
Is there not? I've been writing it with one the whole time. We need to standardize this brand, yeah.
You know what? Yeah, we'll figure it out one of these days.
Okay.
I am one of the semicolons that is your host, Trace Dominguez.
And I'm alternate universe host, Julian Huguet.
Wow.
Which is appropriate to the theme of this episode today.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right.
So, in every episode of our show, we answer questions sent to us by you, the audience. You can send us questions by going down into the show notes, and you can find all sorts of different ways that you can send those questions to us. You can call us on the phone, you can email us, you can go to our website, all sorts of things. Again, show notes. Check it out. It's great. If this is the first time you've listened to the episode, we try to be funny. We also try to teach you some science, but we don't try to do both of those things by banging you over the head. However, speaking of banging over the head, Spider-Man.
Yes. What?
This episode, if you don't like Spider-Man, I don't know how you're going to feel about it. Because for some reason, we had a bunch of questions from the audience about Spider-Man, and Julian and I both picked randomly Spider-Man-related questions.
We met for our little, bi-weekly meetup, and we were like, hey, let's pick questions, and we rolled through them, and I was like, I like this Spider-Man question, and Trace was like, that's funny, because I like this Spider-Man question. And listen, we try and make the themes, have some context, right? Ooh, a holiday.
Yeah.
Ooh, spooky. We looked up when, the next Spider-Man movie's coming out, or the anniversary of a Spider-Man movie.
Right.
Nothing. And you know what? We're going to do Spider-Man anyway. So welcome to the Inexplicable Spider-Man episode of That's Absurd. Schrodinger's comma, please elaborate.
Happy Spider January, everybody.
It's for no obvious reason.
Happy 2025 is the year of Spider-Man. We're all just going to jump into universes and point at each other, and it's going to be great. So, with that, Julian, how do you feel about Spider-Man? Are you always spell it with a hyphen? I think that's our first important thing, right?
I think so. Is the plural spiders men, spiders man? I don't know. Anyway, that's another discussion.
I mean, you'd think they would have figured that out with the multiverse. But yeah, please, tell me how you feel about Spider-Man.
As heroes go, he's up there, right? He's quirky, lovable nerd. Mm-hmm. Depending on the comic or movie, he's in some STEM field. It might be like biomechanics or something like that. But still, super cool, nerdy guy just trying to make it in the world and do some good. Who doesn't love Peter Parker or Miles Morales or Gwen Stacy or any of the numerous Spideys? Spider Noir.
Spider Noir, who's getting his own movie?
Voiced by Nick Cage.
Just amazing. I mean, Peter Porker's pretty great.
Okay, by the way, when there's eventually...
I just washed my hands. That's why they're wet.
When there's enough Into the Spider-Verse movies that they're going direct to, not DVD anymore, streaming. Yeah. And they need somebody who can do a John Mulaney voice, but they can't afford him anymore.
Just call us. Yeah.
Give me a call because, listen, I'll just be over on the bench waiting.
Do animals talk in this dimension? Because I don't want to freak him out.
This is a sidebar. But the first time I showed my parents a John Mulaney stand-up special, I had the audio recording and I showed it to them, and my parents were like, is this you? And I was like, yeah, I have an amazing stand-up career that I never mentioned.
That's so funny. And it's amazing that we've never, after all these years, ever talked about how when you get enough people together who all have the same timbre of voice, which is to say, we're not down here, we're more up here. That we all end up Mulaneying at each other. We're just like, did you believe? I don't believe. Wow, that's it,
Why are you doing this? Because we're Delta Airlines. Anyway, so that all being said, yes, this is the Inexplicable Spider-Man episode, and my spider question comes from Jaron, who sent in a voicemail.
My name is Jaron from Omaha, Nebraska, and my question is, does it actually make sense for Spider-Man to web swing? Okay, so I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. As a man in his 30s, that's done me a lot of good. But one of the powers that we don't really talk about a lot is that he does have significantly faster than human speed and musculature.
Right.
So I was wondering, how fast could we proportionately run if we were Spider-Man, And would that not be more efficient than web swinging? Thanks so much, guys. Big fan of the show. Hope you like this question.
Aw. Yes.
Thanks, Jaron.
Yes,
we do like this question.
I do like this question. And full confession, when I saw it, I was like, this is probably a pretty easy physics problem. And it wasn't.
Oh, no, because you did say while we were in this meeting that you mentioned earlier where we discussed spider questions, and you're like, oh, it's probably just a simple question of pendulums. And I was like, look, you're already doing it. You may as well just take the question.
Yeah.
And here we are.
But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yes, please.
So let's kind of dive into that alternative to swinging first, right? Which is how fast can Spider-Man run?
Got it.
And this one is totally arbitrary, right?
Oh, sure.
Because it's made up like how strong he gets, right? And so I thought, well, maybe I'll dive into, because I'm not the biggest comic book fan, sorry to say.
Wow.
Everyone who looks at me and assumes that I would be. Yeah. Including I met my wife at Comic-Con. You think that's like major nerd cred, but no, I'm really not the biggest comic book like aficionado.
Worst nerd ever.
Really, seriously, I am. I really, really am. But you know, this is what the internet's for. I'm sure I can just find some internet forum where people are very, respectfully discussing how fast Spider-Man, and they're all fighting each other, and it's chaos. And it's a war zone. No, the movies don't count. Are you insane? You will not pollute the purity of the comic book continuity. That sort of thing. Just flying around about, again, a made-up spider-powered teen guy, right? It's young
boy
adult
squad.
It's very silly, okay? So the internet, in terms of getting a definitive, like, how fast can he run, it wasn't too helpful. It's kind of like, pick and choose whatever works best. But of course, I'm in the mindset of like, let's be as generous as possible.
Sure. That makes sense.
I bounced around the internet a little bit, and the phrase that kept coming up that I saw, and even Jaron said it, was like, he has the proportional speed of a spider.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my next question then is, which spider?
Yeah, I had that same problem.
Yeah, because I don't know if you know this, Trace. There's a lot of types of spiders.
There's a lot of spiders.
There's 45,000 species of spider.
Wow.
Do you think they're all going to run the same speed?
No.
No.
Probably not.
No, they're not going to run all the exact same speed, so... First, I went to try and find, if the comic book source material or any of the movies could kind of give me a clue as to which one it would be, and it wasn't very helpful. Yeah, the original comic book in which Spider-Man gets bitten, Peter Parker, doesn't say what he is. Apparently, though, a lot of people seem to think it's a Latrodectus species, which is the genus of spider that includes black widows, brown widows. Sure. The second The Amazing Spider-Man movie identifies it as Araneus oscorpius.
Yeah.
Because, it's an Oscorp spider.
It's genetically engineered. I always just assumed, based on my, again, limited knowledge, I read some Spider-Man comic books when I was young, but I haven't, kept up with it. But I always just thought of it as, in my head canon, that it was an engineered spider. So it was like a mix of a bunch of, the best parts of a bunch of different other spiders.
Right. And Araneus is a real genus. Oscorpius is not a real special epithet, by the way. That's the second part of the full species name, the lowercase version. Oscorpius is special epithet.
Oh, cute.
Yeah. Not a real spider, but the genus Araneus is species like orb weavers, big web-building spiders that you've seen. And the Sam Raimi movies says it's a genetic hybrid. And it's got the jumping ability of a jumping spider, the web spinning ability of a funnel web spider, and nerves that fire so fast it, quote, borders on precognition, which I think is a dumb thing to say. And based on the look on your face, you do too.
How would that even work? They fire so fast. Isn't every nerve firing borderline precognition? Because the nerve firing is the cognition. So... the moment it fires, you were precognition, now you're cognition.
precognition doesn't make sense because how could you have a stimulus before like something triggers it, you know? Like it's borders on, I wrote in my notes like dumb thing for a scientist even in the movies to say.
Look, I love Sam Raimi and the chin. Love the chin, gotta say.
Love the chin.
That must be said. However, not a science movie. I don't think Raimi makes science movies. I think he makes fun movies.
It's also very funny to me, like this genetic hybrid spider was very clearly just like dreamed up to justify all of Spider-Man's powers in the movie.
Yeah.
Because the reason spiders come in all shapes and sizes, they have different survival strategies, you know? They're using what they got from being in this arachnid family tree in different ways. Jumping spiders jump. So they are adapted for that, right? Like their legs are built to like kind of have this hydraulic buildup that they can release quickly. And their eyes, they have big forward facing eyes so they can have good depth perception, which makes them really cute.
Yeah,
and they're generally
so
they're pretty small so they can jump well. And they don't build webs unless they're like laying eggs. They build like a little kind of nest, but they use the little silk producing spinnerets on the butt, I guess, you know, scientifically, opisthossoma, really is more kind of like a mountain climber has like a rope anchoring them to the wall. So if they fall, they don't squash themselves.
Yeah.
But then a funnel web spider builds a web so it can just sit there and have prey wander into the web and then it eats it.
Right. They're all different.
Yeah, they're different. They use these different spider qualities to survive in different ways. And then some of them just straight up run after their prey.
Cool.
Yes.
That's the fast ones?
Those are the fast ones. So if we're going to give Spider-Man some running abilities, let's assume that this genetic hybrid, for whatever reason these mad Oscorp scientists were making it for, is also really fast, just running. So that would be from the huntsman spiders. As the name implies, they hunt their prey just by straight up running after them. And they can get fairly large. In fact, if you're going by leg span, one huntsman spider species, the giant huntsman spider in Laos, would be the largest spider in the world.
How big is it?
It has a leg span of 30 centimeters or about 1 foot.
Ooh.
But its body is only 4.6 centimeters or 1.8 inches in length. So it's got a super wide leg span.
And a teeny tiny body.
Little body. And the legs are angled back so they can more easily fit under crevices. So these spiders, huntsmen, live across Asia and, of course, you know, God's Thunderdome, Australia.
Yeah,
and
of course.
So it's a common thing in Australia where they'll like get inside cars and like wedge themselves under the little sun visor. And then you're driving along in Australia in your right-hand drive silly car, you know, and you flip the sun visor down and it just falls in your lap and people freak out. And it's apparently just part of the deal of living there. So
look, it's a beautiful country filled with lovely people. And yet it's also a constant cage match.
Just terrible. Terrifying.
They're like, you can't run. We've surrounded it by ocean. Now here come the crazy animals.
Okay, but I had this image in my head, right? So the huntsman spider is basically like one leg is 3 times the length of the rest of its body. So can you imagine like Peter Parker getting bit by this genetic hybrid spider and it changing his DNA somehow magically, right? And then he has like his legs triple in length. And he has to blend in at school. Yeah.
It'd be hard to hide at school. No, it's a growth spurt. I'm going through puberty.
Mary Jane being like, wow, Peter, when did you get all tall and confident? Oh my God.
Hi, Mary Jane. Hi.
Just towering over him, wobbling around.
Honestly, it would have made his fight with Flash a lot. He could like really kick. Like imagine whipping those legs around. Pow.
Yeah, he doesn't even discover the rest of his spider powers. He's just like kick man. He's like, this is all I need. Just these huge legs.
This is one of the alternate universe spider people. Is just kick spider.
Guy who doesn't realize that he has everything else. Just went with the most obvious, noticeable.
Be like, wow, my legs are so long. Has never tried.
And I have 8 of them now.
Has never tried to climb on a wall. Never. Never invented web fluid or excreted it from his body, assuming if you know,
depending, if you're going with the comics or the Sam Raimi movie or the comic they made to justify that change in the Sam Raimi movie. Anyway. So, imagine though that he's this type of spider. He's got this spider's proportionate speed. Well, how fast can a huntsman spider run? Apparently, they can run at about a yard per second or 0.9 meters per second.
Whoa.
Now, sounds fast, but if you translate it to something that's kind of more...
human size, yeah.
Yeah, that's 2 miles an hour, 3.2 kilometers an hour.
Okay, so like you could outwalk it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound that fast until you remember that their bodies are short and tiny. So it's covering 200 times its body length in a single second.
Oh, wow.
Right. In that kind of lens, all of a sudden, that's really fast. Imagine being an insect trying to get away from that.
Yeah, nope.
That would be terrifying.
Imagine if you could move 200 Julian distances in 1 second.
It's funny you say that because if the comic books are right, Peter Parker and I are the same height.
Oh, cool.
Which would be 178 centimeters, 5'10".
Yeah. You guys are so short. It's cute.
That's average. You shush your mouth, you giant freak.
I'm not that big.
Trace has, you can't see this on camera right now, or if you're listening on the podcast, but Trace actually has 10-foot long legs.
Yeah,
so.
I look like that huntsman Spider-Man.
Yeah. Okay, so that would mean if we scale that up, right, if he's traveling 200 times his body length of 178 centimeters per second,
right,
that means he's traveling at 356 meters per second.
Whoa, okay, that's fast.
Yes, that's almost 800 miles per hour, 1,280 kilometers per hour. That's faster than the speed of sound.
So I feel like they wouldn't go that fast, but they could go that fast, right?
I mean, there is a comic book panel. I don't know which issue it was. I just found the screenshot of it online. But there is one where he's just like parkouring around the city. He's not web slinging. And he says, wow, this is great when you have the proportionate speed, size, and strength of a spider, you know, or think it. So presumably, he is traveling that fast. Except on the very next panel, he's apparently traveling even faster.
What?
Because the little blurb in the top of the panel says, 2 miles and 5 seconds later.
What? Oh, okay, that's fast.
Yes, which would be 2,300 kilometers an hour.
That's too fast.
That's too fast.
That's too fast.
That's silly.
2 miles in 5 seconds. I mean, geez, you're going a mile every 2.5 seconds. That's crazy. I just went 2 miles, Julian. I just went 2 miles. Just did it.
2.5
and thanks.
miles.
I'm really good at math.
Divided 5 by 2 on the fly.
On the fly. Just did it in front of everybody.
We're all impressed. We're all very impressed. Okay, so that's almost twice the speed of sound. It's substantially faster even than the proportional speed of a huntsman spider. And Trace, you know what my takeaway from all this is? People that write comic books just be saying stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's true. They're not doing a lot of fact checking while they're writing their comic-y books. They're like, what sounds fast?
That's good.
2 miles in 5 seconds sounds pretty fast. It can't be 2 miles in 2 seconds. That's too fast. And 2 miles in 10 seconds? That sounds slow. How about 2 miles, 5 seconds? Steve.
Yeah, Stan, what? Stan.
Steve, 2 miles, 5 seconds. What do you think? Too fast?
No, it's good to me.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'm putting it in.
Cool. Great. Thanks, Stan. Great. And thus something for comic book lovers to argue about forever. Because, like I mentioned, I met my wife at Comic-Con, and I was kind of there almost as like an outside observer, and I just watched very nerdy people get into knockdown, drag-out arguments over this sort of thing. And again, I think it's just important to remember, it was just some guy making stuff up. It's fine. So we're going to say, okay, sure, like, even being somewhat realistic, right? Like, if he just got, like, a little bit stronger and faster than a normal human being, could he compete with web swinging? And my initial gut instinct was no. And this brings us to the physics problem that we were discussing when I first picked this question.
That you thought would be so easy. And look at you now, Mom.
And my hubris assumed would be simple. Because I remembered college physics, and I remembered that, if you're calculating the period of a pendulum, which Spider-Man, like being a weight on the end of a string, is basically a simple pendulum, that's a pretty straightforward calculation, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Except it isn't if you are trying to maximize the speed of the pendulum. Here's the thing. There's an equation for calculating the period of a pendulum, and all that really matters is the length of the pendulum arm and the pull of gravity on whatever planet you're on. That's it. It's completely independent of other factors like the mass at the end of the pendulum and the maximum displacement. So how far, in this case, Peter would travel as he's swinging. It's independent of the angle that Peter starts at, so long as, and this is what I forgot, the angle is less than 15 degrees.
Ew. And so if he's swinging from way up high,
yes,
then it's going to mess with your this is easy feeling.
Which you'd want to do to maximize the distance that he covers in a straight line across town. And that I had forgotten about. Because basically, if it's less than 15 degrees, you can simplify a calculus equation to just be pretty simple arithmetic, because the sine of 15 degrees is close enough to just 15 degrees, so it doesn't really matter. But greater than that, we have to do calculus. So I was kind of dreading that until I found that somebody else who's actually qualified, he's a Southeastern Louisiana University professor of physics.
Nice.
He wrote an article for Wired. It's Rhett Elaine, who actually has an Instagram that I follow where he just posts physics questions for, his viewers to try and answer. It's great. Cool. If you ever just want like a little physics brain teaser in your day to pop up, you can go follow Rhett Elaine on Instagram, and it's wonderful.
You are such a nerd, and I love it.
Thank you. I'm this type of nerd. I'm not the comic book type of nerd. I'm the follow a physics professor for daily physics puzzles type of nerd.
Yeah.
Okay. So, somebody, would you believe it, actually asked this exact same question way back, and Rhett went and figured it out. And he made like a piece of software to actually kind of optimize. And he said, okay, if I want him to travel as far as possible, as quickly as possible, I don't want him to start at 90 degrees, like straight horizontal, and swing all the way through that arc, because I'm wasting time on the initial down portion and the very end, like up portion again, right? Because Peter Parker at that point is basically traveling straight up. You're not gaining any forward distance.
Right. You're trying to go forward, not complete a circuit, if you will.
Right. So he figured, okay, well, the best angle for Spider-Man to start at is probably about 80 degrees, right? So he doesn't waste time traveling vertically.
Got it.
And Rhett found that even with a very long web, like 60 meters long,
wow, that is long,
Spider-Man would still only cover a horizontal distance at about 29 miles per hour or 46 kilometers an hour, which is a little bit faster than Usain Bolt.
I mean, that's still fast because he can just keep that up.
Yes, it's still fast, but if he is a Spider-Man capable of traveling proportional spider speeds,
800 miles an hour,
even for a slow spider.
Let's say it's a fraction of that.
Yeah.
Knock an order of magnitude off. It's only 80 miles an hour. It's still so fast.
Yeah, it's still pretty silly. So yes, Spider-Man would probably cover distance across New York City faster if he was just running, but that wouldn't be cool.
It wouldn't. Also, there's a lot of people in New York City, but there's nobody swinging. So you're just up there by yourself, swinging along.
For safety reasons, probably good.
Yeah. Because if you ran into somebody at 80 miles an hour, or like a cab car or something, like he's going to cause some damage.
Also, if he's swinging, he's letting gravity do the work for him. It's less tiring.
Yeah.
So that's good.
That's good.
One thing we don't talk about, I mean, imagine the caloric intake for him to run all over the city at Mach 1.
Yeah, Aunt May must be making all sorts of food. Because, wow.
Or the food bank that he volunteers at. He's just back there, like, eating all the canned food that's meant for the downtrodden of New York City.
I mean, I hope not. If somebody snapped a photo of that, he could get canceled.
I know. If only there was a newspaper photographer around with the order to bring somebody more pictures of Spider-Man.
Yeah, if only. I don't know anybody like that.
Yeah. Could be anyone.
Could be
Gotta find that guy. Anyway, so Jaron, I think, to answer your question, according to the laws of physics, Spider-Man's swing is not that much faster than like a very fast human sprinting. So if we assume that he's a super-powered super guy with stronger musculature and everything, like, yeah, he could probably outrun the web swinging. But then he'd just be, I don't know, some superhero that runs really fast, and that sounds dumb.
Yeah, nobody likes that guy. That kind of guy, whoever that might be.
Just fast man, boo.
Fast man.
Boo.
Well, on that note, Jaron, thanks for asking your question. Everyone, think about a question that you might want to ask us during the break, and we will come right back in a flash.
Not Spider-Man related. We're not going to do another Spider-Man episode for a long time, so please don't make this a Spider-Man only podcast. They're all going to send in Spider-Man questions now. Why did I do that?
Julian, give me your best dinosaur roar.
Oh, God, an asteroid! It's horrible!
Wow, that was not where I expected that to go. We're popping in before the show to tell you about I Know Dino. It's a dinosaur podcast.
You know, we think of those dinosaurs being this thing that's been dead for tens of millions of years. Even so, studying dinosaurs can still teach us stuff that is relevant to the world today.
Yeah, like climate models to help us understand global warming.
Migration patterns of dinosaur lineages, they tell us about Earth's changing continents.
We can also study dinosaur diets, what plants lived then and maybe what animals and how they interact.
And, this is super cool, many dinosaur injuries, paleopathologies, they're the first known occurrences of diseases.
And they talk about all this kind of stuff on I Know Dino. It comes out every week with new dinosaur stories that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Like, I hadn't heard of a lot of these, which is pretty cool.
You can find I Know Dino on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts are. And if you found us, you can probably find them. Go check them out. Welcome back to Webcast, the only podcast dedicated to answering all the minutia about how Spider-Mens work.
Oh, God. Oh, this is terrible.
We've just got one question into our... That's the show now. That's the show.
Okay, I guess.
Trace, continue this long and glorious tradition now. What is your question?
So my question was sent in by Brendan, and Brendan wanted to know how much spiderweb would it take to stop an elevated train in New York?
Ooh.
Tobey Maguire did it in Spider-Man. Should we use web from an orb weaver, a house spider, a garden spider, or a different one? I think that's a good question, and I wanted to know.
That is a good question.
Brendan, thank you for asking our Spider-Man question, because this is Webcast, and we only answer Spider-Man questions.
As we all know. I just had the dumbest mental image of some, like, terrorist organization, like, trying to grow a bunch of spiders to slow down New York public transit. Soon we'll have enough web. Okay, yeah, inform them. How many spiders do we need? How much web?
Yeah, so let me do a quick, a minute here and recap the bit of Spider-Man 2, the 2004 classic that Brendan is referencing. If you haven't seen it, viewer, it's the Tobey Maguire series of Spider-Man that came out in the early 2000s. In this one, the sequel to the first one, Spider-Man has already been established. We don't have to do that whole thing one more time to try and tell everyone how Spider-Man became Spider-Man.
Right.
So instead, we just jump right into the action. And eventually, this dude named Dr. Otto Octavius invents these octopusy arm things, and he sticks them on himself, and it's got an AI in it that's evil for some reason, and it overwhelms his brain, and hijinks ensue. Spider-Man, in this scene, Spider-Man and Doc Ock, as he's known, are fighting on a New York subway train. After a prolonged fight with some passengers, some of them are thrown from the train and things are smashed, and Spider-Man saving everybody and fighting Doc Ock and boom, pow, boom, pow, pow, and walking on the walls and doing all sorts of stuff. Doc Ock gets to the front of the train and smashes the controls for the train driver so that the driver cannot stop the subway on this elevated platform running through what appears to be Midtown. Spidey, his mask was burned, so he's unmasked for drama, I'm sure. Yeah.
Finally, that and the long legs has given him away. Oh my God. That's that 12-foot guy I went to high school with.
And so he gets on the front of the subway train, shoots a bunch of webs, and stops the train just before, well, a little after. It goes over the edge at the end of the track because, as we all know, at the end of Manhattan are just a bunch of dead ends. They don't go anywhere.
They just got bored. They're like, we don't need to finish this.
They're like, oh, there's the Hudson River's here. I guess we'll just stop.
I guess we stop. We really should have planned this route before we did all this construction, huh?
So that's the scene.
Anyway, it's not like a runaway train's ever gonna happen, right?
No way.
Right? After that Green Goblin attacked, I'm sure we're done with supervillains in this town. It'll be fine.
Oh, God.
Can I tell a very silly, dumb kind of anecdote of my time in LA?
Yes, please. Always.
When I first moved to LA, I did a lot of extra, like, background stuff.
Yeah.
For jobs. And a lot of times they're very secretive about what you're working on. So, like, you don't even know what you've been booked on until you show up to set. And one time I was booked on what ended up being the pilot episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Cool.
That was really exciting. And it was at the train station in LA. There was a big fight in the middle of the train station. And my job the entire day, along with all the other extras, was to just run away in terror. It was a lot of running. And then later, I ended up doing another Marvel MCU thing. I was in Iron Man 2 as an extra when they blow up Grauman's Chinese theater. Spoilers. And I was instructed, along with all the other extras, to just run away.
So you're just a runaway, you're a running crowd member.
And coincidentally, for both days, I showed up wearing the exact same outfit. So I like to think I am a canonical part of the MCU. Like, guy who's always around when bad stuff happens in LA. Like, oh no.
You didn't buy enough crystals. Your vibes are wrong. You need to do some sage burning around your house, whatever the LA people are doing these days.
Yeah. Do not go outside when supervillains are afoot.
Yeah, there you go. You'd think that we would know.
That's the main thing.
Look, if this was all real, there would definitely be an app for tracking supervillain activity. And they'd be like, oh, there's been a lot of supervillain activity in LA right now.
Yeah.
So just don't go here or here or here.
Can you imagine, like, filling out your insurance claim of, like, yes, Iron Man threw my car at somebody, so... Yeah. That's a write-off.
Sir, you have to write Stark Industries for that. We don't pay for that, sir.
So
sir?
You'll have to work it out with their insurance company.
Yes, sir. I don't care if your name is Rhodey. I can't get you your car back. Okay, so Spider-Man 2.
Right.
How do you feel about this scene? Do you remember this scene when they're fighting on the subway? Yeah, it's iconic, I think. But, like, tell me about it. Tell me what you remember.
Mostly, I remember Tobey Maguire's straining face as he's pinned to the front of that train and just with all his might to slow this thing down.
Yeah.
Thinking about how it would probably rip his arms off, if anything.
Jeez, the amount of force involved, which we're going to get into, is pretty wild. I just want to point out that this scene is iconic. That face is a meme. Usually associated with pooping, but that's, totally fine. It has become what has become. Once it gets out there in the world, you can't control it.
Yep.
Just like pooping. So I want to just dig into this scene a little bit so we can get as much information as we can before we do our math. WNYC has a car train finder where you select the characteristics of the train and it tells you what train it probably is. Now, I use that, but then I also just watched the scene a few times, and it looks like it's probably the R train to Bay Ridge. Now, I don't know if you know this, but train nerds are a whole other level of nerd.
Oh, ferroequinologists? Yeah.
I love train nerds. They're fantastic people. I have some friends who are train nerds. They do a ride on a national train line every year called Nerd Train. You can find it on Instagram, #NerdTrain. It's awesome. Anyway, the R line, which in 2003, 2004, when the movie came out, was using a specific type of, as in train parlance, rolling stock. That's the name of the train cars. So the New York City rolling stock is named after the contract number that they were purchased under. So in this case, it was probably the R46, which is a specific type of train that was made by the Pullman Standard Company from 1975 to 1978 and was still in use in the early 2000s. R46s came in two types, Type A and Type B. Type A had a driver in it, so the first car would have been a Type A, and then Type B was a follower car, aka a blind car. The R46 were run in 4 or 8 car configurations, and if you watch the clip, you can see that there's definitely more than 4, so there's probably 8. Each car weighs approximately between 87,000 and 91,000 pounds, or about 40 to 42,000 kilograms.
Heavy. Okay.
Yeah, they're big. They're heavy things. The top speed of an R46 is 55 miles an hour. That's governed under the New York City subway system. The fastest they're going to go is 50 to 55 miles an hour. They won't go any faster than that. However, when Doc Ock smashes the controls, apparently all bets are off and it goes like 80.
Yeah, so, just do whatever you want.
Yeah. By the way, 55 miles an hour, about 88 kph. So,
and apparently faster than Spider-Man could web swing to catch up with it.
Exactly. And here we are. He does. Luckily, he's already on it, but he does catch up to it at some point when it's running. So, he swings faster. Probably because I'm assuming there's some like spring in his web, that he like
some slingshotting motion.
Right. We're going to just make some assumptions. I do want to nitpick a little bit in the scene. There are parts where you can see parts of the train. The R46s were numbered in the mid to high 5,000s and the low 6,000s. Every train car in the New York City subway system has a number, and they're all individualized. So they don't have two 5,000s. They have one 5,000, one 5,001. The car that we see him smash through is the 2815, which is not actually an R48 number. That's actually a 1950s era AB standard. It doesn't, so. Anyway, just saying, got a little wrong there, Raimi.
I didn't think we'd find a nerdier hobby than comic books on this podcast, but here we are.
Yep.
On the same episode.
You know how many train websites and forums I have been on reading about New York City subway cars just to...
Were the arguments more vicious than the ones I was fighting on comic book websites? Because I bet they were.
It was actually a lot of like, what train is this? And then a bunch of people kind of arguing about which one it was. And everybody was pretty nice. I was like,
oh, that's good.
Kind of surprised by that. But also not surprised because train people, they're all like, we all love this thing. Let's all love it, as opposed to comic book people, which I think is a little more of a love-hate.
Yeah, the thing about trains is you're all in them together,
Yeah, going in the same direction. So, in that fight scene, there's a lot of things a lot of information you can glean from that. So we're going to do some math and figure out, based on the R46 mass and the speed it was probably going, what it would take to stop it. So first, in the scene, he jumps in front of the train, like he walks up there casually and he's like, what do I do? What do I do? And then he jumps down in front of the train and puts his foot out. I don't know why he puts one foot out. That seems kind of dumb. He has 2 feet. Where's the other foot? Why not put both feet in front of you? It doesn't matter. He does that. It doesn't work, but he breaks a lot of railroad ties. That seems like it would be bad. Then he tried using webs to shoot and catch the building, which was his first attempt, and it just pulled the facades off the building, which makes sense because of how heavy that train is. That train is an 8-car train, so just the mass of the cars alone is 328,000 kilograms. That's a lot. That, if you add like 800 people, because each car can fit 70 people sitting down, according to the R46 specs, and so we're just going to assume it's about half full, right? Like, there's not a lot of people standing, but there are some. So you end up with about 800 people on the train. The average weight of a human in the early 2000s, varies depending on sex. So we get 500 men, 300 women. You're going to get a total of about 472,000 kilograms for that train. And we're going 36 meters per second. That's fast.
That's quite fast. That's
quite fast.
Twice as fast as Spider-Man can web swing. Yeah.
I'm surprised you haven't blue bulbed me yet. But anyway,
Nope.
So he stops the train by shooting a bunch of webs and catching all across a bunch of different facades and holding them in his hands and making the little constipation face for about 53 seconds.
Wait,
Yeah.
did you calculate the rate that he was slowing down then?
So from the moment he starts the grab to the moment the train scene ends is 53 seconds. He starts grabbing and to end it. So it takes him about 53 seconds to stop the train. And you can't tell exactly how long he had left on the track, but it looks to be about 400 meters, like a quarter mile left of track. And that's pretty short. The train's brakes, if you were to engage them, would take about a mile to stop a train of that mass. And so like 4 times that. So what the math works out to is he is holding on to those webs and he is holding back and slowing down that train, which means that train has so much force in it. And rather than going through all the math, because you just did a bunch of math, I'm not going to do a bunch of math again. I'll just tell you the answer rather than showing my work. But you know all of the data, right? We have a 472,000 kilogram train. It's going 130 kilometers an hour or about 36 meters per second. And in 53 seconds, it stops. So we have our velocity at the end of 0. We have our velocity at the beginning. We have that delta. And then we have the amount of energy you would need in order to stop that amount of kinetic energy.
Right.
So what we end up with, if we do all of that math, is 321.4 kilonewtons of force that he had to apply to the front of the train in order to get it to stop.
And not get torn apart.
He did crunch the front a little bit.
Right.
But they implied that it would be a lot more probably in real life, but I didn't do that math. But that's about the energy if you convert it to thrust, like in a rocket, like pounds force or kilograms of force. You end up with about a medium-sized rocket. Like a V2 would be a little less, and a Redstone rocket would be just above that amount of force, of thrust.
Okay, a Redstone being the rockets that the American space program sent the first couple astronauts up in, like Alan Shepard.
Yeah, like Mercury program rockets. Yes.
So it's like putting, this rocket pointing the other way on the front of the train and igniting it.
Right. And in 53 seconds, it stops the train.
Wow. Okay.
That's a huge amount of force. Now, before you ask, the webs could hold that. If you were to scale up Darwin's black spider and the web of the Darwin black spider, the web should hold that. It actually has a tensile force of 12 gigapascals, which should hold this amount of force no problem. However, the scene is very dramatic and they keep focusing on his hands. So his fingers are holding a rocket. If you were to reverse it, right, instead of him stopping a train, it's him holding a rocket.
Holding a rocket back,
So take that, Captain America. You can't even hold a helicopter. Spider-Man can hold a rocket from launching.
Okay, in my research, I saw a lot of shade being thrown at Captain America, which made me sad.
Oh,
because
really?
They were like, he's just basically a peak human. He's not even really a superhero. And I was like, hey, he's got the heart of a great man, okay? He made Mjolnir move a little bit in that Avengers Endgame movie, okay?
Well, he grabbed it.
And then he grabbed it. And then he grabbed it because his heart is pure.
That's right. He's worthy.
I love Captain America.
I love him too.
Sorry.
I also love him even more because he knew in that moment that he could pick up Mjolnir, and he didn't. To save his friend's dignity, he didn't do it.
Yes.
That's awesome.
What a guy.
Who would you? I would pick that up immediately. I'd be like, look at it!
Which would paradoxically make Mjolnir unliftable for you, because it would be like, oh, nope, you're kind of a jerk. And then
that's true. Dang it. Okay. So, let's go back to Spider-Man.
Sure.
So, if Spider-Man can somehow hold a rocket back from launching, keeping Alan Shepard from going into space, weirdly, for some reason, he just doesn't want him up there.
No, not you, Al. Sorry, bud.
I didn't get into the civil engineering of attaching the webs to the buildings and if the facades of those buildings could hold it.
I don't know. Do you think you could point a rocket at a building facade and it would hold up? I'm going to go with no.
I'm going to think not, but hey.
Especially like the shear, right? Because it's like going along parallel almost to the direction. I feel like that just ripped that right off.
That's what I would think. Yeah, same. So let's now go to real spiders, because that's sort of what Brendan asked. He wasn't really asking, can Spider-Man do it? We saw Spider-Man do it in this film.
Right.
So what about real webs? What do you know about spider webs? What does everybody say about spider webs? Spider webs are stronger than...
steel cable, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Proportionally.
Right. A good thing that you add, but proportionally. I really appreciate that. Because everybody's critique is very like... well, vaccines don't protect people. It's just like, well, you didn't look into it at all. People are like, strong as steel, but I can break it. I can just put my hand through it. It can't be that strong.
Right. Imagine you had a wispy, thin little strand of steel. You could easily break that, too. More easily than a spider web.
Likely 5 times easier, because spider silk is roughly 5 times tougher than steel. And flexible as rubber. And I say tougher on purpose because we talk about it as like tensile strength, but every spider web is different. Every species of spider that spins web, and not all of them do, are different. And remember, the Darwin spider has a tensile strength of 12 gigapascals, but the average is like 1.5.
There's also, we should mention, right, like different types of strength. We talk about tensile strength, and that's resistance to breaking under tension.
Yes. If I'm pulling 2 ends of a jump rope away from each other and the rope breaks, that's its tensile strength. If I'm holding 2 ends fixed and then I try and hit the middle of the jump rope, that's more like the toughness that we talk about. And then there are other ways too. We've talked about like the crunchy machine that woman invented for potato chips.
Mouthfeel.
But it's like crushing. Like that's a crushing strength is a different type of strength.
Torsion. Yeah, there's a lot of different types of stress, right? But for this instance,
shear, you mentioned shear.
Tensile strength is great because that's exactly what would matter in this scenario.
So a 2018 AAAS science piece cited a study from ACS Macro Letters that said, and I quote, if human-sized, it would be tough enough, spider silk, to snag a jetliner as it flew by.
Wow.
So imagine a rope that you held, that somehow you lassoed an airplane as it flew by you. The rope would not break if it were made of spider silk that had somehow been scaled up. This is, of course, assuming a lot, right? Because the problem with this is if you scale up spider silk, it's not going to have the same properties, likely, because it's going to be denser. There's going to be more and more molecules. It just won't work the same way. There's no guarantee that it will, is maybe a better way to put it.
Right. Also, what kind of plane are we talking about? Like a little one-engine Cessna or like a Boeing 747? Or
they specifically were vague, and I appreciate that, but I also don't love it.
Yeah, there's a lot of types of airplanes.
Yeah, there's a lot of different airplanes. Put this in front of the airplane nerd, and all of a sudden he's like, what do you mean?
Wait a minute.
Do you mean like a Learjet or like an F-14? What? Those are both jets.
It's true.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
Yeah. So this study in ACS Macro Letters looked at brown recluse web strands. They used an atomic force microscope, which can see atomic structures and then the forces betwixt those atomic structures. And they found that webs are made of thousands of nanostrands, 20 millionths of a millimeter in diameter, 1,000 times thinner than human hair. And they use them to make one strand of web.
Okay.
And spiders do use this to snag jetliners, quote unquote, sort of. There are spiders who use their web to snag insects as they fly by, which is pretty cool.
Right.
Like they shoot a thing and they grab it and then it snags it and it can pull it in, which is amazing.
Or just build that web as a trap, right, for the jetliner to fly into.
They can do that too. Yeah.
And it's similar in construction to how we make steel cables anyway, right? It's just a bunch of smaller cables all bound together for the same reason.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that. So spider web is made of 3 different types of silk. There's flagelliform, aggregate, and dragline. So in a web, The starburst bits, like the bits that go from the middle to the outside and attach to things, that's the drag line. Between those, the like rungs on the ladder, are flagelliform coated with aggregate, and then they can make aciniform to encapsulate their prey. So the strongest is the drag line, and it's a bunch of molecules that link up, and they don't actually know entirely how, but they call them beta sheets, which hook up with hydrogen bonds, and alpha helices, which are stretchy. And they hook them all together inside of their bodies as they're producing their silk. And again, yes, it looks exactly like the inside of that drag line is a bunch of little molecular strands together, bunched up and surrounded by the aggregate silk. So it's thousands of little nano ropes together, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And so we can't make rope at human scale size of spider silk.
There have been attempts to produce a lot of spider silk. Yeah.
Yes. They have tried to engineer worms to do it. They've tried to engineer bacteria to do it. They've even tried to engineer goats to do it.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for the spider goats.
The spider goats. Only Spider-Man can make human-sized ropes of spider silk, unless somehow we scale up a spider, and then I think actually we're all screwed because spiders are naturally territorial and cannibalistic. So you can't even like get a bunch of spiders together to make the spider silk for farming. So I wondered, to kind of answer this question once and for all from Brendan, a lot of people have looked into it. So rather than redoing all of their math, I found a person on Reddit who did the math, feeling indentation 94, and I double checked their math. And so their math looked at the tensile strength of actual webs, and then assuming that they could use that web for our own purposes. Like we could somehow use the curse from Harry Potter and tell all these spiders to work together, right? Like you can Imperio all of them and make as much web as you want.
We're really cross-pollinating our nerddoms on this episode.
We really are. It would take, according to their math, 4.7 million spider strands to stop a train going 80 kilometers an hour or 50 miles an hour. So updated with our train stats. So I checked their math and it worked out. So I updated the numbers that we mentioned earlier to make the train heavier because they were using a lighter train and make it go faster because their train was only going 50. And the math works out to about 6.4 billion strands of web to stop.
Oh,
yeah, that's a lot. So, of course, what does that mean, right? If you build it like a cable for a suspension bridge, how big do you think 6.4 billion strands of spider web would be?
Oh, that's a great question because they're so small.
They're so small. So do you think it's A, 5 millimeters, B, 10 millimeters, C, 1 centimeter, D, 5 centimeters, or bigger?
In diameter, are we talking?
Yeah, diameter.
Yeah, it's still like 2 inches. I feel like billions of strands is a lot, so I'm going to go with 5 centimeters.
Okay, so 64 billion, because each strand is only 5 nanometers. A rope would be about 5 millimeters, about the size of a pencil.
Oh my gosh, so I'm an order of magnitude too big.
Yeah, isn't that wild? That's why, so if you think about all of these companies that are trying to make spider silk, like imagine a rope the size of a pencil that you could lasso a jetliner with, maybe just a Learjet, but either way, like a small jet as it flies by and you just lasso it and attach it to something and
that'd be chaos.
It would be pretty wild.
You hanging out by the airport and just like, you're going to make a left turn now. And you just like snag the side of it. The jet's going around in circles. The pilots are like, what is happening? Honestly, what would happen if you did that and you weren't anchored to anything is you would suddenly go for a ride. This is a cool way to die.
You're on that beach that everybody's social medias and you're just lassoing planes and now you're at the airport.
I'm just imagining, it's like standing behind a jet taking off and you've got like the little water ski rope and you're like, all right, hit it.
This is like what the guy in Tailspin would use. Oh my God, that's so funny. See, here's what I thought. I thought maybe this is what the elvish rope given to Samwise Gamgee by Galadriel of Lothlorien to assist the Fellowship which he went on to use to scale the cliffs of Mem and Mule though he laments that it's a waste of good rope, and he tugs it and it comes undone right before he has to... Anyway.
Wow, this became Airplane Facts with Max all of a sudden.
It was my Airplane Facts with Max moment. But maybe that's what it's made of. Maybe the elves somehow were able to harness spider silk, because that is very strong and light and thin.
There are giant spiders in The Lord of the Rings.
Exactly. Anyway, it all makes sense.
Sure.
So, however, all that aside, Julian.
Yes.
The answer to his question is not 6 billion strands. The answer to his question is 0.
Oh, twist.
Because his question was, how much spiderweb would it take to stop an elevated train in New York? New York does not have elevated trains in Midtown.
That's what I was thinking.
The R46 does not run in an elevated scenario on the way to Bay Ridge. They do not have L trains in Midtown. And so, what in fact you are seeing is a Chicago Transit Authority L train, the 2200 series, by the way, manufactured by the Bud Company in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and used from 1969 to 2013. So, the answer really is 0. How much spiderweb would it take to stop an elevated train in New York? None, because there aren't any.
It's so pedantic of you. Actually, but no, I wanted to say that in the beginning. I'm so glad we came back to that. I was almost like, now that I think about it as an adult who's been to Manhattan multiple times, I don't remember ever seeing an L train. They're all underground.
They are. Down in Midtown, they are underground. If you go out into the boroughs or up into northern Manhattan, they do have some elevated.
Right.
But not where he would be around super tall buildings that he could swing from and grab.
Maybe that's why the construction stopped so abruptly, like they were building the track, and then they're like, wait a minute, we're not supposed to be here. Whatever, just divert it into the Hudson. Call it a day.
I just want to mention one more thing, that it would also be 0 even if there were elevated trains.
Okay.
Because I learned a lot on these nerd forums about trains.
This is another thing I was thinking.
And I don't know if you know how trains work.
I was thinking this, wait. Is there another A car at the back of the train that can also slow the train down?
They usually run the trains of the R46 as an ABBA configuration.
Obviously for safety, because why would you have just the one car that can stop a hurtling mass with 800 people in it that is on a train track that's not finished, that diverts into the Hudson for no obvious reason?
But even then, have you ever heard of a thing called a tripcock?
Not in a family-friendly setting, no.
So train signals, you've seen these on train tracks. There's a red light, there's a yellow light, right? The red light means that there's a train in the next block. Train tracks are divided into blocks of so many yards, probably in the United States, and meters elsewhere. So if there's a train in that block, the light will be red, so the train driver knows not to go into it. Now, these days, we have a lot of computer-driven ones that are much safer because they know not to go in there because it's all digital. However, forever, like since the 19th century, if the light is red, there's also this little T-shaped structure that sticks up out near the bottom by the track, and it's called a tripcock.
The tripcock.
And in England, like in the English system, not in the American system, the word tripcock really just means a trip valve. And what ends up happening is it trips the emergency brake, which exists on every train car. Every single one. It's not just one button in the driver's seat. And in, again, a ABBA configuration, there's multiple driver's seats. And in fact, some R trains that use the R46 are in an AAAAAAAA configuration because the B car is apparently pretty useless.
The safest in case of supervillain attack.
There's just, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so the tripcock would automatically engage the emergency brake as soon as it entered an area it wasn't supposed to be in. So there are multiple safeties to stop this train.
It's almost like engineers are A, really smart, and B, have had a lot of disasters happen in the past and have learned
yes,
that there should be many redundant levels of safety for these sorts of things.
Yes. It's almost like that. On top of all of that, inside of the R46 and most train cars, in fact, in the New York subway system, you see these all the time, is the emergency brake. And the emergency brake, it's so annoying for the system because anyone can pull it at any time, and people pull it for vandalism reasons where they'll pull it to just like be funny.
Hilarious.
And out of the hundreds of times it gets pulled every year, only like 30 or 40 are for real emergencies, and the rest are just, kids joking around. So they've made some changes. But at the time in 2004, when this movie came out, or even when it was filmed in 03 or 02, the emergency brake would have just been a cable. And if anyone in any of the cars pulled it, all of the cars would have stopped with their emergency brake, and they would have taken about a mile to do it. So over the course of this roughly 5-minute scene, they would have had so many times where they could have just pulled it safely, and it would have been fine.
So what I'm hearing is all these passengers are lazy.
There are, remember, 800 passengers on this train.
And every single one of them was like, Spidey's got it.
He got it.
I'm going to keep reading my book. I'm not going to buy into this nonsense.
How New York of them.
I'm just trying to ride my train that doesn't exist.
There's one dude in the second to last car who's dancing and flipping around the poles, and everybody's just like got their headphones on, and they're like, oh my God. I'm just trying to get home.
They're just imagining that, like, this massive knockdown, drag-out fight happening in front of them is just busking. They're like, I don't want to. I'm not going to give you any money, guys.
Look, pretty cool.
It's pretty convincing. I don't know how you did the trick ripping the facade off the building as we went by, but, like, you know, it's fine. At least it's not a mariachi band again. Like,
the funny thing is, you can tell that this movie was made when comic book movies were trying to be more serious. Like, there was less funny ha-has in it. The MCU has a lot of comedic moments in it.
Yeah.
And these, like, older comic book movies take themselves very seriously, because you could totally see this being, like, the Shang-Chi fight, right? Where it's like they're fighting in a bus. And it's such a good fight scene. And I also love it because San Francisco, but, like, and I know the bus line and I know where they are, and it's so cool. However, it's also so funny. The guy live streaming it is hilarious. There's all these funny moments. And this fight, there are no funny moments. This is all just
life or death.
Beaten and life or death for 5 whole minutes. And it's like, it would have been so good if Spider-Man fell on the ground and somebody, like, tried to give him $1 for the show or whatever. Like, it'd be so funny. Or somebody, is pulling down 50 Shades of Grey and being like, what's happening? There are so many moments that they could... Anyway, that's neither here or there.
Also, into the minutia, I know somebody's going to say it, but, like, Spider-Man was owned by Sony, and so it's, like, not really... So they have a weird relationship with the MCU, for sure.
They did.
But did you ever see the actual bus driver who, like, went through that bus fight scene and talked about what he would do?
Yes. It's
hysterical.
So good. It's so good.
Where he's like, as soon as the first big punch is thrown, he's like, okay, this is the moment when I pop the brake and open the doors and kick everybody out.
Yes. I've been on a San Francisco bus where he's like, everybody out. That's
everybody
it.
Out. Nope.
Everybody out.
No,
nope,
they ruined it. If you don't like it, take it up with them.
There's another one bus behind us. Go get on that one. Anyway, as usual, this podcast has devolved into the internal urban design of the various cities that we have lived in. So I hope you enjoyed,
which is the real final
Transpocast.
We've gone through. We've started as absurd comedy science, Spider-Man. We've gone through like 3 different changes in the course of one episode. Now we're just transportation.
Now we're just a pro public transportation podcast.
Pro is the safety of well-engineered public transit systems. They're not going to terminate into a river for no reason with no way of stopping if one button gets broken.
And one dude is like, what are you gonna do? So thank you so much, y'all, for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did, because Julian is crying. He's
a little bit
having a good time. So I hope you enjoyed it. This episode was written and produced and created by me, Trace Dominguez.
And me, Julian Huguet.
It was also produced and edited by the wonderful and probably genetically modified spider, Kyle Sisk. because, man, he can work the keys with all those legs really well.
He's got 8 sets of hands.
Where's that Spider-Man in Spider-Verse?
He's got 8 hands.
8
anyway,
sets. Wow, that'd be a lot of
8
hands.
sets would be too many. That would be 16 hands. It doesn't make sense.
Good band name, though.
Additional editing for this episode provided by the Disco Spider, Sam Grant. Special thanks to listeners who submitted questions featured in this episode, Jaron and Brendan. If you would like to submit questions, you can look for the show in our show notes. Email us at hello@that'sabsurdshow.com. Visit our website, that'sabsurdshow.com/ask, or call us like Jaron did, 302-TAPE-SHOW, TAPESHO. Temporary moratorium on Spider-Man questions, please.
please.
Just because we're not going to do another Spider-Man episode, we can't justify it multiple times like this.
No, probably not.
Also, a special thanks to our Patreon subscribers. We appreciate you all. Thanks for continuing to vote on the different questions when we just have an overflow of them. And a shout out to our absurd administrators, Les and Adam.
Give us a review wherever you're listening to the show right now, if you haven't already. I don't know where you're listening because it doesn't always tell us that, but I know that wherever you are, there's a follow button. There might be a like button. Maybe you have a heart or a star or like a rating of 0 to 5. Hopefully we deserve 5, but maybe not. There's that one guy that ruined our rating early on because of Julian.
It's been over a year. We can let it go. That one guy doesn't like me and hasn't listened since, I'm sure. It's fine. I don't think about him.
Every day. So thank you if you choose to rate us. Thank you so much. We got an email from Brendan, a different Brendan, who wanted us to send him a sticker because he left a review, and I really think that's awesome. We are going to send him a sticker, and he probably already has it by the time this episode has aired. We could not do this show without your reviews, without your listens, without your questions. So thank you for that. If you leave us a review, shoot us an email, we'll send you a sticker.
Finally, special thanks to those listening on Nebula. Nebula listeners get access to ad-free versions of episodes, and they support us and other awesome independent creators that we like, we're friends with, we watch their stuff, they're great. So to join Nebula, visit go.nebula.tv/that'sabsurdshow.
And remember, what do we say at the end of every episode, Julian?
Spider-Man will handle it.
Don't look up spider sex because Spider-Man is a freak.
It's gross. I'm glad. I was wondering if we were going to talk about spider sex in this episode, and I'm actually proud of us that we didn't.
Spider sex.
Spider sex.
You don't want to know about spider.
Ends in horrible decapitation and death.
I think that's what we say at the end of every episode.